dive straight into it.
Sorry, we'll just because if it comes on and you're chattering, it'll just immediately go through. So.
Gentleman,
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as councillors probably know, we can't really talk about individual staff members, unfortunately. However, Councillor Wynne, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you offline in relation to any issues that we may have in relation to that.
There's a couple of others, but I'll speak to you about them later.
Thank you.
anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.2, Resolution Register Update. Recommendation that Council receive and note the Resolution Register as at the 13th of July 2023, appended at Annexure A, and the Resolution Register for 2022 as appended at Annexure B. Do I have a mover? Councillor Miles, seconder Councillor Allen. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Miles?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.3, Rural Doctor Sponsorship. The recommendation that Council 1 receive and note the Liverpool Plain Shire Council invite from New South Wales Rural Doctors Network Bush Bursary Sponsorship as appended at Annexure A, and the Scholarship Program Guidelines as appended at Annexure B. 2, thank the Rural Doctors Network for the opportunity to participate in the Bush Bursary Program for 2023. 3, agree to participate in the Bush Bursary Program for 2023. And 4, approve the cost associated with participating in the program as estimated in the financial implications section of this report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cullen, a seconder. Councillor Cudmore. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Cullen?
Yes, Mayor. Just a couple of queries in relation to the finances that are set out there. I know when reading the bursary document that there is a provision to the scholarship providers of $1,500 to the accepted clients. I just wonder whether that is part of, like we're paying accommodation expenses over and above. That $1,500 is actually for them for meals and accommodation. So I just wonder if that cost is in our budget there. And the other thing in relation to the accommodation, I just wonder whether the temporary accommodation that's at the hospital for the doctors up there, whether that sort of accommodation would be able to be utilised for these students.
Gentleman.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so taking the second part first, in relation to the doctor's accommodation at the hospital, I guess we can ask and just don't know the answer to that. In relation to the first part, the $1,500 is the participation element, and I think we've been perhaps conservative in the accommodation in the event that we're not able to find, say, billeting accommodation, and they may have to be put up in a motel. But I think for budgetary purposes, it's probably best to be a little bit conservative at this stage. And obviously, if we do have any savings and actual costs, then we'll certainly endeavour to do that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm quite reluctant, but I'm going to speak against this. And the reason is it's not about the $3,000, it's about the figures. I don't think the figures are very good for returns for the community. And the second thing is that the 2011 figures, that's quite old really.
And my third point is that I'm just concerned about what local government should and shouldn't be getting involved in. And really, doctors in New South Wales should be a New South Wales government problem. I think it's a great idea, and I don't think $3,000 is going to make or break us. However, I don't think the figures are very good, reflecting a good outcome. And like I said, they're old figures. I'd like to see some newer figures before we maybe do this next year or whenever it comes up again. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak for the motion, although I do share some of the same concerns that Councillor Mullins does about the figures previously in 2011. However, it is a long time since then. We've had COVID, people's attitudes towards living in rural regional areas have changed. A lot of younger people are seeing the benefits of being out here. So I think in that sense, it could well be beneficial. I do also agree that I feel like this is a New South Wales health problem and we're just trying to pick up the slack. However, I think given the status of our access to GPs in the area, that we just need to pick up the slack and maybe do whatever we can. This may help, it may not, but I think given that it's not a huge amount of money that we should try, seeing as there's a program like this available.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Allen.
In line with Councillor Lawson, I think I'm going the same way that figures are out of date by 12 years, but in order for the Shire Council to go forward and move along with this opportunity that's been provided, I think to be remiss of us not to attach ourselves to it and grab hold of it, because it's something that may not come up again. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Allen. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.4, Corporate and Community Services Directorate Report for June 2023. Recommendation that Council receive and note the Corporate Community Services Directorate briefing for June 2023 as detailed in this report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cudmore, a seconder. Councillor Allen, did you wish to speak with Councillor Cudmore?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Lawson.
I'd just like to welcome our new Director of Corporate and Community Services, Mr. Dean Frost, on behalf of the councillors.
Thanks, Councillor Lawson. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Cole.
Mr. Mayor, just query in corporate governance thing there about the insurance renewals questionnaires that were completed. I noticed that we expressed an interest about some excess options being reviewed. I wondered if there was any feedback on whether there were any effect or what effect those, if we used increased levels of options there, whether that would affect dramatically or in any significant way our insurance figures for renewal, please.
Gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'll give it a go and then I'll hand over to Mr. Frost. So, yes, we have looked at that with our insurers in terms of increasing our excess and deductibles with a view to saving our premiums. My understanding is that in terms of the overall insurance budget, we are actually less than what we were previously. We may have saved, I understand, in the order of about $25,000, but just before councillors get too excited about that, we actually want to reserve that because we have increased the excess. So we are actually taking on a bit of a self-insurance risk there, if you like, because there may be more frequent incidents that we have to pay for ourselves rather than claim on insurance. And there's also an education process that we have to go through with the staff to make sure that that is recognised in terms of making sure that we are being probably a lot more careful, because we take on a lot more of the risk.
Thank you, General Manager. I'd just like to thank the Finance Department in going down that track, and I'd also like to thank the staff there, and yourself, General Manager, for taking into consideration those increased risk materiality problems. And I'm sure the area committee will be interested in recognising the fact that you've accepted and making public notice of the extra risk it may be out here. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cullen. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.5, Statement of Investments for June 2023. The recommendation that Council receive and note the Statement of Investments as at the 30th of June 2023 as appended at Annexure A. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cullen, a seconder. Councillor Cudmore, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Cullen?
No, respect.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.6, Operating Hours for the Liverpool Plains Shire Libraries. Recommendation that Council A, permanently remove the lunchtime closure from Queanbeyan Library's hours of operation. B, cease the trial of Saturday openings at Queanbeyan Library on the 29th of July 2023 and not permanently introduce Saturday openings. C, retain the current operating hours at the Werris Creek Library. Do I have a mover? Councillor Wynne, a seconder. Councillor Cudmore, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Wynne?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.7, Local Advisory Groups. The recommendation that Council A, receive and note the minutes of the Currabubula Local Advisory Group. B, receive and note the minutes of the Spring Ridge Local Advisory Group. I have a mover. Councillor Lawson, a seconder. Councillor Cullen, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Lawson?
Just noting in there the concerns of the Spring Ridge Local Advisory Group around the hall there, and just noting that we are looking into that.
Thanks, Councillor Lawson, that's noted. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Miles.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Some time back we did an assessment of all these halls and they were passed over on to council. I don't recall seeing a line item for repairs to halls, and I'm wondering where the funding is going to come from. My other concern is the requirements of a local advisory group. And I know we actually have 2 people of the same family and 1 other present at the meeting, and 2 apologies, and I don't know if that meets the requirement of having a local advisory group. I understand their concerns, but my biggest thing is where do we get the money from to try to do these works, especially if we haven't got a line item in our budget. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Lawson.
I'd just like to bring up that what they're referring to is actually a problem with the floor that council paid for only a couple of years ago that a significant amount of money was spent on. So we do need to look into that.
General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So Councillor Moles, in relation to your questions, I might have to take that on notice. I think we'd have to have, unless I'm going to put Mr. Frost in on the spot there. In relation to the terms of reference of the local advisory groups and what that might say around quorums and also relationships and those sorts of things, potentially conflicts of interest. In relation to the funding side of things, there would be I guess a small amount of depreciation set aside for that, but I would think that the majority of the cases, as Councillor Mawson said, for Spring Ridge Hall, we would have to rely on grant funding for a lot of those works, other than sort of minor maintenance type things. So it is something that I suppose we need to work with the advisory groups quite closely to ensure that we understand what their needs and requirements are, work with them for any grant applications that may be around for that. Mr. Skelly and myself and other staff met recently with Department of Crown Lands to talk about the latest Crown Lands improvement fund, I think that's the CRIF, and what opportunities might be available there. So that's something to look out for. I think that opens next month. Yeah.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.8, Infrastructure and Environmental Services Director's Report for July 2023. A recommendation that Council receive and note the Infrastructure and Environmental Services Director's Report for the month of July 2023. Do I have a movement? Councillor Cohen, a seconder. Councillor Cudmore, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Cohen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, just a couple of, a little bit more information, if I could please. In relation to the flood damage and the query in relation to whether a causeway was caused by the flood or not, I'm just wondering if there's a little bit more information as to where that causeway is and what we would be required to do to try and prove that it should be included in that funding that we had. And the other bit of information is the repair to the Kamilaroi Byway, in which we originally approved a budget figure of, I think, just over 1.1 or 1.2, and it was budgeted to come in, or the contractor was going to come in at about 850. I'm just wondering whether that was the occurrence, whether we actually did come out in favourably in relation to that matter or not. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Regarding the causeways, it's multiple causeways across our entire road network. It's not an individual causeway, so there's a myriad of them. And the key bit is we need to be able to demonstrate under the design renewal guidelines, we need to be able to demonstrate clear condition data from prior to the event to show that it was damaged as a result of the flood. Regarding the Kamilaroi Highway, I'll have to take that on notice. However, as it is an RMCC contract, if we did come in under budget, we get paid less from RMCC because the RMCC is essentially cost plus.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against? Councillor Wynne.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, over this roads upgrade, I took Mr. Skelly to two sites that the water was a problem. I don't know the site he knows about, but there's one where there's a big hole in front of the people's driveway because the water cannot get away through the pipe. The pipe is overgrown and the road should be able to get through the pipe. And another one's up on the highway where water runs down all through the backyard of some person's home. Nothing's been done about it yet. And the patching,
Turn your microphone on. Turn your microphone on.
And the patching of the Seal Road, there was patching down in the railway square, and then we had a shower of rain, and those potholes are still as bad as what they were before the rain came.
Microphone, councillor Wynne. Turn it on.
Turn it on.
Turn your microphone on. General Manager.
Taking minutes. Yep.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor, I have to speak to you after me to recall exactly which two areas you're talking about with regards to the drainage, so. I do recall one that we spoke about, but it doesn't quite match your description, so I'll have to talk to you after that. Regarding the patching of the railway square, I will speak to my colleague to get down there and do it again.
Okay.
Councillor Miles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of questions, and I apologise for not putting them in. They've only just come to me actually, as I've been reading through the report for the second time. It's in regards to the waste management. The first part of it talks about the landfill below tree, and a separate report is included in the council meeting agenda. Could somebody direct me to where that is? Because I've just quickly gone through on the site here and I can't find it, so I don't recall reading it. And the second one is about the remediation works at Werris Creek above the council estimate. This was all, I know this was all done and it's been carried through every couple of years, and I'm just wondering how this keeps blowing out. We as a council set to do a project, and then we see this sort of thing in our papers and it's just affecting our bottom line. It's as simple as that. So I just have some concerns with that, Mr. Mayor, but I just don't know, it's like a dog chasing its tail. Thank you.
General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Apologies, Councillor Miles, regarding the commentary about the Willow Tree landfill. At the time of drafting this report, there was a report planned to come to council for the construction of the Willow Tree landfill. Late on in the piece, we identified that there were some issues that we still needed to resolve, so we pulled that report and it's intended it will come to the next council meeting after we resolve those issues. So didn't remember to adjust this report to reflect that. Regarding the Werris Creek landfill, yes, we have we have received some pricing that was in excess of what our expectation was. So right now we're working on rechecking the design and going through a tender process to see if we can lower that cost. So the contractor has not been engaged at that high rate, and we're going through other procurement methods to see if we can reduce that cost.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Skelly.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Cutler.
Yeah, just a query on the Werris Creek Industrial Precinct. We've received the funding to bring it up to 13.6 million, but the final design is expected to be completed by the end of July. We still don't know whether we own the land for the whole project, so I'm not quite sure how you can do a design if you don't actually own the land where the road's going to go. Do we get to see the design and when it's done, if not, you know, how do we know if the budget's big enough? And also, I'm still a query about the bridge across the railway line. Is that in the design, or can it be taken out if so thought not needed type thing? I'm just not quite sure whether we're doing a design with it in or with it out, because it's the major cost from what I can gather. Thank you.
General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the design list is due at the end of July. Regarding the land ownership, we are working with the landowners. We can undertake design works without owning land, and we can do investigation works within private land for road design purposes. So we are still working with the landowner, and we're confident we'll make a bit of we'll achieve what we need to achieve with that. Regarding the bridge, it is currently designed with the bridge, and that bridge is within that $13.6 million budget. The current requirements for merit funding would not enable us to remove the bridge. The scope that's been approved by the state government includes a bridge over that road.
So there's no question on the bridge, it's in the design.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.9, Federal Growing Regions Program, project nominations. The recommendation that council endorse completing an expression of interest in Growing Regions Program 4A, the Corindai Aquatic Centre Community Gathering Space, and B, the Corindai Landfill Remediation and Waste Transfer Stations. Do I have a mover? Councillor Lawson, a seconder. Councillor Miles, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Lawson?
I was just wondering if we could just have a little bit more information for the benefit of the community. Obviously, we're looking at the information here, but just as to what each of those projects entails that we're applying for grant funding for.
General Manager?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so regarding the Corindai Aquatic Centre, obviously council had a distinct vision on what we wanted to achieve from that, so it would be potentially expanding and trying to deliver a bit more from that project, and through our community consultation and finishing up this week, there has been some feedback, a lot of feedback from the community about some potential expansionary works that may be required in that concept, which this could help fund. Regarding the landfill remediation and waste transfer stations, as part of the broader waste management strategy, council is funding that itself at the moment, so the purpose of this funding would be to reduce council's own source funding within that project.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put, sorry, did you want to speak again?
Just quickly, just on that point, I know they closed the 1st of August 23, so will that delay the process if you wanted to do something with the aquatic club?
General Manager?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so there are some challenges with that. It doesn't necessarily have to delay it. So part of how we would manage it is we could separate out some of those works in the aquatic centre as their own piece of work. So it wouldn't delay the whole project. It might delay the commencement of the splash pad area, but it wouldn't be, I don't believe it would be to the detriment of the project.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.10, Town Water Supply Status. Recommendation that council receive and note the water supply status report. Do I have a mover?
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cohen, a seconder. Councillor Wynne, did you wish to speak with Councillor Cohen?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put, Councillor Lawson.
I just note there that again, we've got a very high alert for blue-green algae at the Portola Dam. Just be good to know if there was some other reason behind that from our water services operator going forward. I understand it's not being done, but just be good to find out if there's any other factors at play, because usually it's quite low over winter. So, thank you.
General Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I think we might take that one on notice on this. Mr. Skilly's got some information, but yeah, good point. Normally more prevalent in the summer months than now, so we would certainly do what we can to find out.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. And that's noted, Councillor Lawson. Item 7.11, Quipolly Water Project Construction Progress Report. The recommendation that council receive and note this month's progress of the Quipolly Water Project's design and construction phases. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cudmore. Seconder, Councillor Lawson. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Cudmore?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, Councillor Lawson.
I just note at the time of the report, they are still on track for the 18th of December as the final contractual completion date. I was just wondering if there'd been any update to that, or whether we're still expecting that completion date at this stage.
General Manager?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at this stage, there has been no update on any potential delays, so we are still expecting that same completion date.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.12, DA/2023/19, dwelling and shed 25 Deep Road, Werris Creek. Recommendation that council determines development application 2023/019 pursuant to section 4.16 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979 by granting of consent subject to the attached conditions. Open mover. Councillor Moles, the seconder. Councillor Cudmore, did you wish to speak with Councillor Moles?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I haven't really got a lot to say about this. I do know where it's going, and I am aware that in the past these DAs do come to council because they're in breach of our LEP as such, and this is why this one is before us, and it's to do with the size of the shed. I'd just like to point out to council that in Werris Creek Road, this DA is next door to the council yard, which has quite a large shed. There are similar sized sheds. There's one in the end of Hill Street, at the end of Hill Street. There's one on this side of Echo Hills Road. I won't use anybody's names. There's another one on the corner of Coronation and Henry, which this council passed, which is below the fire station. And there's also the current bus depot in Henry Street. And they're all in a residential area. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
General Manager?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if there was a question there or if it's more of a statement. Councillor Moles, do you need a response to that?
That is correct, Jean, because I'm speaking in favour of it.
That's noted, Councillor Moles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Confidential matters? Sorry. Who?
I just wanted to note that one required a division.
Required.
A division.
It's a DA.
It's four coming in.
So didn't we have a show here?
Yep.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go again.
Can we just do that again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so I'll put the question. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Confidential matters, item 10, that council considers the confidential reports, bracketed S, listed below in the meeting closed to the public in accordance with section 10A, bracketed 2 of the Local Government Act 1993. 10.1, unauthorised use of demountable buildings at Wallabadar. This matter is considered to be confidential under section 10A, bracketed 2, bracketed B of the Local Government Act, and the council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would, on balance, be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with discussion in relation to the personal hardship of a resident or ratepayer. 10.2, councillors, please note there was an error with the title of the report, 10.2. The correct title is Appointment of External Facilitator for the General Manager's Performance Review 23-24. This matter is considered to be confidential under section 10A, bracketed 2, bracketed A of the Local Government Act, and the council is satisfied that a discussion of this matter in an open meeting would, on balance, be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with personal matters concerning particular individuals other than councillors. Do I have a mover to move into confidential? Councillor Moles. Second by Councillor Cudmore. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Report on confidential matters. Report as follows. Confidential matters 10.1, unauthorised use of demountable buildings in Walgadar. At Council 1, give the applicant 6 months to obtain the necessary approvals for portable buildings. 2, advise the complainant that while it appreciates the concerns and the need to comply with planning requirements due to the particular circumstances of this case, Council is prepared to give the applicant another 6 months to obtain necessary approvals. This was approved, 5 votes for, 2 votes against. Item 10.2, appointment of external facilitator for General Manager's performance review for 23-24. The recommendation that Council authorise the General Manager's performance review panel and General Manager to engage Local Government New South Wales as an external facilitator to assist with the performance appraisal process and the development of any new plan for the 23-24 period. This was voted accordingly at 7 unanimous. Being no further business, the meeting closed at
3:23.
3:23.